And hello, Ara.
Hello, Nikos.
Yeah, you're half an hour too late because Ann today could only make it from half an hour ago to now, and she just signed off.
Oh, okay.
But we did record a half an hour conversation with Ann.
Nice. Awesome.
You want us to engage in some back and forth?
Yes, I was curious about what you teach because I thought you were teaching in an architecture school. I'm not sure if you're teaching mathematics
Yeah, I'm
or
teaching mathematics for my, that's to put the bread on the table. And then
okay.
every few years I teach a face-to-face architecture course. But that's rare. But I'm always teaching online courses for architecture,
Oh,
and
okay.
I have put two courses completely online free. So those are followed by students around the world because they are free online.
Oh, are they on YouTube?
They're on YouTube, and
What is that called? This video
well, one
playlist?
is called one is called Unified Architectural Theory.
Oh, I think I've seen that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the other one is called Algorithmic Sustainable Design a few years ago.
Okay.
So I quickly realized that this material is so extremely important that it's not worth my time to teach it to a class of 30 students. I record the material and then post it online for free to give access to 20 or 30,000 students. So I
Yeah,
have
that's
done that with these two lectures, with these two courses. So, it's a complete 2 semesters, and the notes are online and the readings are all free online.
it's nice that we have that opportunity in this day and age to spread something to more people with the internet.
Yeah, so these are very popular in Asia, actually, much more so than in the United States.
So what are you teaching mathematics at a university?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm curious what type of mathematics it is.
Well, we rotate the basic courses.
Okay. Like algebra.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
teaching linear algebra, which is matrices and equations this
okay.
semester.
Okay.
I have gone through other standard courses in the past.
And you did a PhD in mathematics.
I did a PhD in mathematical physics.
Oh, man, and
So
mathematical physics.
yeah, so I can teach both mathematics and physics.
I'm curious what the research topic was for your PhD.
Oh, it was geometric algebras that apply in physics. So there are algebraic structures that recur to describe physical models, and it's no accident. So I studied the unification of all those algebras, and that has implications for my architectural work,
Oh, that's
where
interesting.
because now I'm unifying different topics and results from different disciplines that show how you get a human architecture that's good for our health. So it's a unification. So that's what I did in my thesis for unifying different algebras that were applied by different people in different topics in physics.
Hmm.
But I thought there's a reason why this type of algebra occurs in different dimensions and in completely different applications. So I
Interesting. So
unified them. So now I see researchers in neuroscience, in medicine, in architecture, in artificial intelligence, in mobile robotics, have important results that tell us what a healing environment is like and what's an architectural environment that's best for human health and human learning, and for an infant to develop its brain properly. And there's a commonality. So I'm unifying all the data together. And that's what I've been working on in my last several articles.
was fractal something that also came up when you were working on the unification?
Not of algebras, but now
Okay,
fractals is one of the essential qualities of the geometry of the environment,
I see.
because a fractal ties together different scales. Okay, the human brain likes to see environments that have a harmony, and the harmony occurs when small scales are linked to intermediate scales, they're linked to large scales. Okay, so you don't have an abrupt division between different scales, or you don't have only a single large scale. A minimalist building has a single large scale. It's a cube. That's it.
Yeah,
Okay, there are
that's
no
true.
smaller scales, but there's nothing in nature like that. So it is alarming to the human brain because it doesn't resemble anything natural. Everything natural is fractal and has many different things happening on different scales. So this is where the fractal comes in.
Hmm. I have your book, Principles of Urban Structure. I was looking for it this morning to flip through to prepare for today, but I couldn't find it. I was curious also, did you work on you worked on one of the books with Christopher Alexander?
I worked on all the books.
Oh, all of them?
Yeah, yeah. I helped him to subdivide it into four books. When I met Christopher, it was one big book, and
Whoa.
I subdivided into the four different books.
That's crazy because each one is all really long.
Well, I will tell you the story. So I told him, Christopher, in order for you to present this book, it's better to break it up into individual volumes that are more or less self-contained on slightly, related topics, but they're more readable. So I divided into the four books. And then Christopher started to write more and more and more for each book. So each book
Oh,
grew thicker and thicker and thicker.
there was the pattern language, there was the timeless way
Yeah,
of
that's a
building.
separate. Yeah, the pattern language and the timeless way of building are from 1979 and 1977. And then Christopher worked for 20 years on the nature of order, and I met him in 1983 1983, and started to work with him editing the nature of order. So I worked with him for 20 years, and then he finally published the nature of order. And well, starting there's 1 year apart, volume one, volume two, volume three, volume four. So starting in 2001, the nature of order began to appear in print.
But there are four different volumes of the nature of
Yeah,
order.
four different
Oh,
volumes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, I should look them all up.
Yeah, and for people listening to this webinar, uh, in the last 2 years, they're available as an ebook, which is far cheaper than the paper book, because the paper book is large and has color pictures.
Yeah,
So it's
probably
nice to have
costs.
an ebook, especially for people in the developing world, which, if they can find somewhere to buy the paper book, it will cost a fortune. Whereas the ebook is very, very reasonably priced.
I know the pattern language is available for free. You could just type the name and get the PDF for free on
That's
Google.
that's a pirate. That's a pirate edition.
Oh,
That's
really? Oh, I thought
Yeah,
he
yeah. It's
intentionally did
it's
that.
not officially released.
Oh, I thought he had put it out there for free on
No,
purpose.
no, 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 no. No. I mean, and he
Oh,
doesn't own the rights to the patent language. It's the Oxford University Press that owns the right to the patent language. So they look for free copies, and then they take them down, or they threaten
oh,
the
I see.
website. Now, Christopher does have the patent language on a website, on his website, thepatentlanguage.com, but you have to subscribe. You have to subscribe, and then you have access to all the patents. That's official, that's legal.
I see.
But you're not supposed to get it for free. If people find it for free, that's their business, but that's a pirate edition.
Okay, that's good to know.
And of course, the patent language and the timeless way of building exist in some translations in other languages. Whereas the nature of order, I think, is being translated into Chinese and Japanese. I have not seen the finished translations. I don't know if they're finished.
Nature of Order ebook. Oh, it's on Google Books. Wait, is this? Oh, it is. Yeah. Okay, cool. So every few years or so, you teach and then what is it? A design studio or a seminar or what type of course is this one?
Well, I have taught two theory courses,
Oh, it's
and
theory.
yeah, and that is my unified architectural theory course, form, language, and complexity. And before that, I taught a studio with Kenneth Masden, who was a professor in the architecture school here, and we wrote several articles together. So we taught a studio where I used my earlier book, A Theory of Architecture.
Okay, I'm not familiar with it. I'll check out the book too. So I'm guessing you show both good examples and bad examples in this course?
I try to teach the students how to create good architecture and give the criteria. What does good mean? The criteria I give is you measure things according to scientific criteria if it's good for the user's health and well-being. Physiological measurements, psychological measurements, all the tools that I have developed, all the tools that Christopher Alexander has developed in order to check your design as it evolves, in order to make sure that you're going to have a good and healing environment. that is
Yeah.
totally unrelated to the criteria for good architecture that are taught by other professors in the architecture school. Those criteria are how far does it resemble a famous building by a famous architect?
Yeah, it's true.
So it could resemble a building by a famous architect and be totally inhuman, and then you feel sick if you're inside that building. That's not a good criterion. That's garbage, and it's unscientific. But my architectural colleagues, not only here but all around the world, they don't have scientific literacy. They don't know what science is. They don't know how to measure feedback from a building. They just reuse and recycle the same slogans. These are slogans, ideology, and hero worship. Architecture has been based on that. And you were taught exactly that when you went through architecture school.
Yeah.
And by some coincidence or accident, you happen to learn about good architecture, in between all this nonsense.
Yeah, it really started when Gita and some of our other instructors were talking about creating humane environments, and she invited you to talk. That's when,
Right, but your own education, you learn by accident about good architecture, good for human beings, in between the course material.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, the field is it's like a different your definition of good architecture is definitely the definition I agree with now. But in architecture school, like a good architecture was how well have you thought about your framework for your project in like the larger context of architecture as a discipline. Like it didn't really come down to like, are you creating a healing environment? Is it going to have a positive effect on the inhabitant? That wasn't really part of the conversation, but it really should be.
Yeah, okay, Ara, what is architecture for? You're putting together material. You are polluting the earth. You're extracting steel, concrete, bricks. You're putting them together into a big thing, a big structure. What
Yeah.
is the structure for? I would like to answer that question. It is for human beings to use it, to go inside it, to pass in front of it, to work in it, to live in it, to have children in it. That's what architecture should be for. But my explanation is not the standard one.
Hopefully it will spread more. I mean, I think it's
It's,
beginning to.
it's not going to spread more.
Hmm.
There is so much inertia, so much acceptance of inhuman architecture by society. Okay, if society accepts something, it's not going to change.
But I think people are just not exposed to the way you're defining it. I think if more people are more exposed to it, I think the shift will start to happen.
I'm not optimistic, Ara, because Christopher Alexander was writing the correct message ever since the 60s. Only a few people paid attention to it. And I have been publishing for 30 years, and all my friends, Ann, and 30 other people have been publishing, giving talks, going to conferences, writing popular articles. People are not paying attention to it because we are sort of on the edge of the architectural establishment. We're outside the establishment. We're on the edge of the discipline, and nobody pays attention to this material.
I think he talked about it in a very not sometimes, I mean, there was emotion behind it, but a lot of the time it seemed like he was more matter of fact about it. And other people who were more about architecture as a discipline and not about the end user inhabitant, like they talked about it more passionately, more with, I mean, I think I think it's possible for that type of thing to get people's attention more. I think it's just the way it worked out with Christopher Alexander and Peter Eisenman and other people who were thinking like Peter Eisenman. Just the way that Eisenman worded his books and the way he had those crazy axonometric drawings, like it was appealing. But I think it's definitely possible for Christopher Alexander's method to be more appealing.
Well, we have many very noxious products that are appealing through advertising.
Yeah.
Now, as far as famous architects are concerned, I have been giving many YouTube videos and webinars. At the same time, I have listened to YouTube videos by famous architects, no names. They present a toxic product that will make you sick. But the way they talk about it, they say, "Oh, it's wonderful and it's good for humans and it's wonderful and it looks to the
Yeah,
future and it's innovative and it will benefit society." You know, it sounds fantastically good, but the product is toxic.
that's true. There are a couple of buildings by Peter Eisenman where he intentionally has angles going to make the inhabitant disoriented. And there's like an intentional shifting of two different grids, like things to intentionally
I know.
disorient you.
No, these are terrible buildings, but I told you
Yeah.
in our previous video, you know, I don't want to knock Peter because he was nice to three of my students.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, he has a wealth of information when it comes to like the history of architecture, and I learn a lot every time I listen to him. But yeah, maybe the end product, we have to rethink the end product
But
of the,
look, Ara, what good is knowing the history of architecture if you do not apply lessons learned from historical buildings to build something nice today that's good for the user? That's the whole point. Build something nice today. Where are the techniques that allow you to build something comfortable and humane today? They're not taught in architecture school. The only way you can find them is to take one of those summer workshops that are offered. You know, there are several summer workshops offered by people whom I know. But you cannot get this information in a regular architecture school. It's just not allowed.
yeah, I remember I heard a talk by Eisenman a long time ago, and he had separated architecture into two categories. And he said there's the phenomenological category where people care about the human experience, and then there's the conceptual category. And he was really interested in the conceptual category, and he was really talking down about anyone who was interested in the phenomenological category. It's it's
Well,
pretty
you know,
crazy.
look, Peter did what he did. He was successful.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like his buildings. But I have nothing more to say about it. I think we should move on now. But it's not what I think. It is what society should demand. Okay, society pays architects to design buildings, but society is not demanding human architecture. So it is society's fault. You know, society is gorging itself on junk architecture and is demanding more junk architecture.
Are you familiar with Herzog and de Meuron?
Yeah,
They really spend a lot of time, I think, figuring out the facades and how they're going to appear, and like the also like the interior, the like the how the
yeah,
reading.
but the facades are a failure.
Hmm.
Okay, look,
Particular, yeah,
Anne is not here because she had to go, but Anne can do the studies in 5 minutes of facades and show you that those facades are disassociative. They don't attract the eye.
hmm.
And if they attract the eye, it's in the wrong place. It's like in the corner instead of being near the entrance or, you know, centrally located window. Those experiments are very easy to do now. And Anne is one of the world's authorities on doing the diagnostics using AI and eye tracking and heat maps and visual attention.
Yeah,
So
it's true with
there is
hers.
no longer a debate. We can show using those tools, diagnostic tools, if a building is human or not, from the approach to the facade to the entrance to going into the interior, the ante room, the hall, the individual rooms. We can show that, but the dominant architectural culture is paying no attention to this because it wants to continue to do what it has been doing, is to produce the industrial minimalist environments or broken environments that are even worse. It has no interest in bettering its product. The only interest the dominant architectural culture has is to continue giving out the product it produces now. It's not interested in changing the product to make it better.
Someone commented on last week's video saying that It sounds like we're blaming modern architects and contemporary architects for an issue that might be the result of society and construction and clientele not wanting to spend additional money. Because like if we were to propose,
Wait, stop right
yes,
there. It's not the money. For the same budget, you can build a gorgeous healing environment. The same building in a better geometry. It's not the money. That has been proven over and over and over and over again by the traditional architects, by Christopher Alexander, and by people who follow either Alexander's techniques or traditional building techniques. It's not the money. You can even build a cheaper building that's much better for the human being. So that's a red herring. And I'm aware of that false argument being used to justify the nonsense that established architects are selling. So please continue.
but I mean I'm sure okay, if we just do regular drywall on the whole interior and just regular stucco on the whole exterior, it's going to be much cheaper than like articulating a building like Louis Sullivan did. Like to have like that whole articulation of a facade. It's labor and
Ara,
yeah.
again, you have fallen victim to propaganda. There's a giant difference between just a smooth wall, outside wall, and Louis Sullivan's wonderful ornament on the outside. You can put a minimum of ornament produced industrially extremely cheaply on the outside and on the inside.
That's true, it's possible, yeah.
It improves the building 1,000 times. So it's not either or, either total blankness or the wonderful ornament of Louis Sullivan. So I'm aware of that phony argument. That's a second phony argument. We cannot afford that today because it's expensive. Well, nobody's asking you to do what Louis Sullivan did, but you can improve the building 1,000 times just by small little additions that cost nothing. Look, I keep telling you that the dominant architectural culture has come up with phony arguments in order to use against our alternative proposals. And unfortunately, architecture students are influenced. Who are they going to believe? They're going to believe us, or they're going to believe important architects, their teachers, the professors, the dean of the school. Power plays a role here.
I think a lot of them are not even exposed to you guys. They're just
No,
they have.
no, no.
But I think if they were, they would begin to take interest.
Well, so that comes back to, say, my personal role. I cannot choose to teach a course in the architecture school. I have to be asked. And I'm asked only every few years because they don't want me teaching there. They don't want
Yeah,
the students to be exposed to these ideas. That's it. Plain.
man. It's also like the local codes they need to change because Anne was saying that in Germany it'd be legal to have a building without operable windows. I know people who have jobs where they're employed in buildings where they don't even have windows,
Yeah.
and they're saying that they get depressed in there, and I'm like, yeah, obviously, like it's
Everyone
not a good
knows that.
environment.
Look. The doctors know that you get depressed in hostile environments. It's bad for your health. It lowers your resistance. You get sick all the time.
Yeah, and
Do
hospitals here,
architects ever read these studies? No, they don't care.
no.
But to come back to society, does society demand of architects that they read those studies? No, society just accepts what's given to them.
It would be cool if that was a part of our continuing education that we have to do every couple of years because it's mostly about, I mean, handicap accessibility in California, which is good, and also about like going net zero, like having less carbon emission, that type of thing, which is good too. But I mean, it would be amazing to have something about the human experience as part of our continuing education.
Well, the AIA asked me to participate in a course on biophilia. So there were 5 of us. The AIA had lectures on biophilia for continuing education. They had the video. It was not obligatory, but it was one of the courses offered by the AIA. That was last year. So the AIA did it. What you point out is even better, to make this a requirement.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be awesome. because we do have requirements, but it's like the stuff we're already familiar with. Like, okay, 1 to 12 slope, you need these type of grab bars for the accessible area, and
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, the thing we're not exposed to, it'd be great if it started becoming part of the requirement. I heard someone say this that the building code and testing and everything in architecture loves to obsess with what can be directly measured, even if it's not that important. Like if you can measure it, it's like we obsess over it. But the human experience is it's much more difficult to measure. I mean, even though you and Anne are doing it, but it's not as cut and dry.
No, 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 but you just said it. Anne and I and several other people are measuring the human experience. Again, you are repeating a propaganda item of debate that architects who want to protect the nonsense that they're doing say, oh, you cannot measure the human experience. False. We are measuring it. So look, Ara, you're an intelligent guy and you're interested in good architecture. And yet you repeat three propaganda items that come from dominant architectural culture. That's what they use to prevent other people from learning about good architecture. What do we do?
Yeah. I mean, hopefully I'm in the process of, evolving. I'm still young, maybe like over
Yeah,
the
no,
next
no. You're
decade.
doing wonderful things
Yeah.
and you're participating. You initiated the seminars, but I'm talking about other people. So when others say architecture students who find something of interest that we do, and then their professor says, oh, you cannot measure human experience. That just throws a bucket of cold water on them. So these lies that are used to protect an establishment, a corrupt establishment, are used to keep students from learning what they should be learning. And this is true for students all over the world. Here, New Zealand, India, Thailand, Argentina, it's all the same. It's all the same lies because
Yeah.
everyone wants to copy what the centers of power are doing, and the centers of power are doing the worst possible architecture.
The majority of architecture schools all around the world, it seems like, are looking at the same handful of architects. It's
Yes,
OMA, Bjarke Ingels, Frank Gehry, Morphosis. Like
yes,
there's this
yes.
handful that everyone's looking at. Yeah, Louis Sullivan should definitely be added to the conversation, and maybe, I don't know, contemporarily Leon Krier. I don't know who else is contemporary who's uh
There are 50 others.
hmm. Anyone like how would I find these? Just
What,
like should I just dig?
contemporary architects?
Yeah, who
Well,
are who are conscious of the human experience.
you go to the websites. So you have traditional classical architects, Nir Buras, John Simpson, Anne Fairfax,
Simpson.
and then you have Alexander's
Oh yeah, of course.
approach.
Um, did Alexander do many buildings, or
Yeah, yeah,
he did?
not very many, but about 20.
Oh, okay. I think I've only seen a couple.
Well, you can look on the internet.
Christopher. Um, Man, it's crazy. When you Google his name, like his face comes up. Versus when you Google Frank Gehry, like Frank Gehry buildings come up. But when you Google Christopher Alexander and you go to images, you see the photos of Christopher Alexander, maybe Christopher Alexander buildings. Oh, that's crazy. The first two are Christopher Alexander buildings. The third one is a Peter Eisenman building. That's crazy that comes up when you Google Christopher Alexander. Oh my goodness. But yeah, this is a really nice building. Wow. It has it has like the verticals expressed. They're like parallel, but it's not like relentless. There's like the occasional horizontal breaking it
Yeah,
up,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and
Well,
yeah, it's a nice building.
now there's one thing you need to be. There's one thing that worked against Christopher. Christopher ignored the propaganda of the architecture community. So he designed and built he designed all his buildings and built some of them. He was a contractor. So in
Oh,
order to
damn.
get better control, he acted as a contractor on many of his buildings. So he would be designing and building them there and never look at the photo. So his buildings feel wonderful to experience. They're just magical to experience, but they may not photograph well because, when you see a photo, you say, this looks a bit odd, it's a bit strange. But to be there to experience it is very different from the photograph. You see, this is the opposite of the nonsense buildings.
Yeah, all they care about is the
They're
photo.
designed to photograph well, and who cares about the user experience? Whereas if Christopher is the opposite, yet that's a handicap because when people like you say, I want to find Christopher's building, so you see the photos, and some of them do not give the correct impression that this is a wonderful building to experience in person right there.
There's this one photo that looks amazing. It's an interior. There are skylights and there's a window centered, and then there are these columns that like curve in, they become trusses, and it's like a very warm wood material. This is an amazing interior, man. What building is this? It doesn't even say the name of the building.
I will tell you an experience I had. I was one of his best friends and knew all his work and helped him with the Nature of Order. I'm the editor of the Nature of Order, so I know everything about the Nature of Order. And he built a visitors center and restaurant or cafe in the south of England, and we drove there for him to show me. And it happened to be, a day that it was closed. So it was closed. There was nobody inside. So we walked around the building. It was absolutely gorgeous just to walk around this building. And then I looked down and I told him, Christopher, this is really a good, it was a fantastic chance for you to find this medieval uh, tiling floor and save it and incorporate it into a new building. And he said, no, no, I built that. I built that pavement. I said, no, come on, Christopher. This is just
Whoa,
too fantastic. He said, no, no, I built the pavement.
whoa.
He designed the tiles and built the pavement. But even me, who is used to this stuff, I was totally fooled.
So that's a him being the architect and the contractor, that's a really great way to get that intricate detail
Yeah,
into the project.
yeah,
Because even if you specify it, you really don't know if the
yeah,
client and the
yeah,
contractor behind your back will be like, you know what, it'll be easier, faster to just not do this. And, they just have a
yeah,
link. Man.
yeah. And Ara, I remember something else. So in that building in in the south of England, I went up and I touched one of the walls. It has nice brick wall, but this was raw concrete. So I touched a piece of it and it was raw concrete. And I said, Christopher, this is raw concrete. What you have done here is amazing. This is the ugliest, most repulsive material possible. And you have made something beautiful out of it. This piece here. So he smiled and said, it was easy to do. But he said, I had to tell the construction workers how to do it. They didn't know how to do it. This is poor concrete that everyone does, but he had to tell them how to make it beautiful, and it was beautiful. And I didn't believe at first that it was raw concrete.
What was it about it? Were there patterns embedded into it,
No,
or
no, no patterns. It was plain.
the color of it? The was it
The feeling of it in the context of the wall of the building, it was just gorgeous. And I have experienced concrete that's just ugly and repellent. And
uh,
people tell me, oh, Tadao Ando has this nice, smooth concrete. I find it totally boring and unpleasant. But here, Christopher had managed to combine the raw concrete with other materials in the proper geometry and make it gorgeous.
You know, it seems like a lot of these other architects, they're very interested in the silhouette of the building. There's a focus on the silhouette and
Yeah,
not as much on the smaller scale, like human when you're close up experience.
well, is what we have been talking about. Are you are you designing for a photo shoot or are you designing for the human experience? The photo shoot are the ones who win the prizes and get a lot of commissions. The human experience, so far, society doesn't care. And until society begins to care for the human experience, we're not going to have any decent architecture. We'll have the same old crap.
I haven't looked much into the Pritzker Prize, but it would be cool if they had taken this approach, or if they start to take this approach where it becomes about how humans are affected by what's designed by these
I happened
architects.
to meet the chair of the jury of the Pritzker Prize. I will not say the name. A few years ago. So I told him, why don't you put me on the jury and we can consider then Christopher Alexander, as a candidate for next year. And he said, oh, that's a good idea. And then he never answered my emails after that,
Hmm.
because Christopher is not fashionable.
Yeah. Yeah, the prize go
So,
to
so the
like,
Pritzker Prize, I cannot think of a single person who has done human architecture. The African architect Kere, I think 2 years ago. That's probably the only one who does something human scale. All the rest are just totally fashionable and impractical.
yeah, Carrie's buildings are great. They're really cool. And it's
But,
like
but that was the exception because society was going to close down the Pritzker Prize because you have the award of the black architect, an African architect, somebody who does something with natural materials.
yeah, they're natural materials and the buildings look nice. And also he designs them so like the hot air goes up and out of the building. Like he
Well,
has
it
these
makes
passive
it makes
systems.
sense.
Yeah,
He designs it for the climate. That's what Christopher would do.
yeah.
But after decades of giving prizes to totally impractical buildings, they were forced to do something logical because there was just too many criticisms.
I didn't know that he that Carrie had gotten a Pritzker Prize. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kere got a Pritzker Prize. Now there is the Driehaus Prize. Look up the Driehaus Prize, and that's given to traditional architects. Nobody talks about that. You
The
have
dream.
wonderful architecture from all over the world. That's traditional.
How do we spell the first word?
Driehaus. Richard Driehaus from Chicago founded the Driehaus Prize to compete with the Pritzker Prize.
Oh
And in
wow.
fact, it's worth twice as much money as the Driehaus Prize. I mean, the Driehaus Prize is worth twice as much money as the Pritzker Prize. And it's a competition because the Pritzker family is also in Chicago. So this was Driehaus competing with Pritzker.
Oh wow. The Treehouse Architecture Prize is a global award to honor a major contributor in the field of contemporary, traditional, and classical architecture. Oh wow, this I
Yeah.
can't believe I never heard about this. This is good to know. I'm gonna
No,
look into
because
this,
look,
the
because
winners.
it is suppressed by the architectural media, who can't stand the architects who get it.
It
Yeah.
would be cool if more alternative media were coming out versus, the few big names that we see the big architects published on.
Well, Ara, this video is part of the alternative media for architecture.
Absolutely. And hopefully
Mhm.
more of us start to produce more content about the alternative and put it out there and people take interest.